Salutations everyone, my name is Allan, and oh my word, do I love playing stealth action murder games set in high schools.
Wait a minute.
I'd enjoy playing them more if they were good.
I'm sure most, if not all of you, have probably seen my previous video on the game, when I took a look at the code with my friend Felix Photolol. And in that video's comments and some other places, I had people asking me if I was going to review the game's demo when it finally came out. Well, it's been out for quite some time and received a few updates, so why not give my honest opinion on the demo 1 year on. I downloaded and played the demo on the 15th of June. The update that will be the last one before all 10 rivals are implemented as said in the update blog, and will be commenting on aspects of the game that stand out to me, ranging from the good, the bad, and the downright creepy. And if you know Yandere Simulator even a little bit, you know what I'm probably talking about. One thing I'd like to make clear about this review is I tried to hop into the game as blind as possible. I didn't go looking for confirmed bugs or look up tutorials on how to get rid of Osana. And I didn't look into the Yandere Dev YouTube channel before or after I played the game to deliver my verdict in as big of a vacuum as I could. And the last time I played this game...
Yes.
Don't dishonor Jonathan Joestar like that. So, without further ado, please enjoy my thoughts and feelings on Yandere Simulator. Alright, why don't we start the game like every other game with the title screen, so let's just open... After making my own save file, it was time to make my very own Senpai. What gender is your ideal lover? Female. I tried to make him look like Walter White. Now that's all out of the way, we can finally get to playing the game. Welcome to Yandere Woman's Bedroom. Here we can surf the web, game and shame, watch Death Note, change our underwear, sleep, or go outside. Yeah, Death Note's sounding pretty good right now. After loading into the school and messing around with my settings more to add shadows and an FPS counter, I witnessed 4 students bolt out of the school randomly to go to the scripted talking locations in the most stiff way possible. Where are they going?
Kind of want to find out.
Oh, they're just going... Wait, what? What?
They're going to their scripted event.
After watching these two bolt all the way from the bottom floor to the roof just so they can take part in the ancient art of conversation, I can safely say that this is probably the worst AI I've seen in a video game. I mean, this kind of movement wouldn't be as bad if they just walked instead of sprinting up 6 flights of stairs just to talk about God knows what. Students will walk around in unnaturally straight lines, all uncomfortably close to each other. They'll snap to their predetermined animation so unnaturally and so quickly I'm wondering how none of them have got flipping whiplash. And on top of that, you can get softlocked randomly just by interacting with an NPC that you didn't even want to.
Why are you just on the Windows desktop?
Sorry, dear. That's too close.
What? What? Am I
Just...
softlocked?
Sorry, dear. That's...
You got soft locked.
What? What did I do? Yeah, that game over was justified. I see a lot of people bring it up a lot when they're talking about Yandere Simulator, so I thought I'd bring it up as well, the frame rate. To be perfectly honest, for me, it wasn't that bad. This was the highest I got. This is the mid-range, the average, and I locked it at 60 FPS with VSync. The reason why is because the screen tearing was absolutely horrendous. It won't show up on the footage because I locked the footage at 30 frames per second, but my god, playing without VSync was utterly horrendous. And I don't know if it was me or the game, because every other game I've played I don't have VSync on and it's been absolutely fine. So I don't know if it's me or the game. And to be honest, these kind of frame rate, it's good. I mean, this is playable. And I expect it to be playable because of my computer. Back when I did play the game last year, I was playing on my old computer, which had a GTX 1050 Ti, if I remember correctly, and 8GB of RAM. And my new computer, because I got an upgrade, has an RTX 3070 with 16GB of RAM. To put that in perspective, this is what I got when I played it, and this is what I got when I played it last year. They're very similar, and I'm struggling to figure out why. Salutations, future me coming back again trying to explain this clip and why I brought it up. Everyone likes to talk about Yandere Simulator's frame rate because it has a history of being very out of it, fluctuating a lot depending on what system you're playing on. The reason why I brought it up is because one thing I do remember is that Alex, the creator of Yandere Simulator, said that you needed a gaming computer to play it, and I thought, well, I do, and I had one last year, albeit not as great, and I wanted to compare between the two to see how well the demo has done in improving the frame rate, and the fact that I got averagely the same, it's great. I mean, that's good, but I am playing on an RTX 3070, I expect that. And games like Resident Evil 8, I get a higher frame rate without VSync or anything, without screen tearing, and I'm struggling to figure out how. I fail to understand here as well where he says you can't play any graphically intensive game at a high FPS on a cheap laptop. While that is true, is he saying Yandere Simulator is a graphically intensive game? In my opinion, it looks pretty average for a project this size, and I don't understand how it could be graphically intensive in any way, shape, or form compared to something like Hitman and Resident Evil 8. I know that they're made by giant teams, and this is one guy, but then again, how can you say the game is graphically intensive? I don't really understand that. Alright, I feel like I'm not being too fair on this game. I am kind of dogging on it a little bit too much, so let's try and find some positives. For example, the UI was updated to be a lot cleaner. The hint system is pretty innovative, with InfoChat giving you a pop-up for you to read if you so wish. The schedule system is also really cool, as it gives you a way of planning ahead to see what you can do and when you can either kill Osana or trying to ruin her friendship with Senpai. Stuff like that to help you plan ahead and maybe make you find some interesting ways to kill her. However, trying to kill Osana without these hints can be almost downright impossible if you have no idea what you're doing. Which makes sense, you can't just run in and kill her randomly. Except it kind of makes the game restrictive without it needing to be restrictive. I can't just run in like a Hitman game and thwack and run. I have to wait for certain predetermined times to kill her. Which, if you don't know when they are, it can make the game very flipping boring. Which makes sense given the setting. You're in a school after all, and you're not a trained assassin who have people covering your tracks. You're a normal schoolgirl, and you have to be somewhat stealthy. The problem lies in this can feel restrictive when you're learning the ropes and finding that sweet spot to kill your target. However, I'm sure once you learn the mechanics, this will get easier. However, with that being said,
a lot of this game can end up waiting for the perfect time and chance to kill Osana, not because of any interesting game mechanics, but of a woman. A unkillable, non-destructible bodyguard that makes it virtually impossible to me have any kind of fun.
Ladies and gentle gamers, meet Raibaru. One of, if not the worst thing about Osana. She's unkillable, can't be distracted, always follows her, an all-round unfun game mechanic. Having her unkillable can be okay, I guess. I mean, there are people who know martial arts in the school, so having her fight back can make sense. But then there's the problem of having her following around Osana like some obsessed puppy, which means that for the first rival in the game, without any form of tutorial or preparation, I'm thrown into a scenario which is borderline impossible for me to complete. This is where the schemes start to come into play. Since you can't pretty much do anything without a guide, you have to use the schemes. And there's a lot of them. However,
they aren't free and you have to earn info points to buy the schemes, which can add a pretty decent extra layer onto the game. Until you figure out how you get the info points.
The way to earn info points are as follows. Number 1, a photo of a student's face that will net you 1 point. Number 2, placing a bug in the school that will get you 5. Number 3, stealing someone's phone that will nab you 20 whole points, enough to buy pretty much any scheme if I'm not mistaken. Number 4, doing a bounty mission for 25, which I just didn't even bother trying. Or number 5, sending InfoChan a photograph of a student's panties. What the fuck?
This is one of the most heated debates surrounding this game, the Panty Shots. And when I mean heated, I don't mean fans versus fans, more like fans versus the creator of the game. So you know that they're probably not going to be removed.
Thankfully, I'm not the only person who finds this flipping grim. However, when I went online to see how other people were reacting to the Panty Shots, when I went onto the official Reddit, most of them were removed and locked. So that says a lot about if they're staying or going. These are students in a school, and therefore this mechanic shouldn't be in the game, regardless if the warning at the beginning of the game says otherwise. What's more aggravating is that this is perchance the easiest way to rack up points once you know what you're doing. Just getting a shot of one of the popular people or someone on the student council will garner you 10 points, which is enough to buy most of the schemes in the game, so why wouldn't someone go for the simplest option? And then we get onto the schemes themselves, which are the most brain-dead, boring thing to do in the entire game. You're not just following some vague checklist or whatever that makes you think at all. For example, it will tell you need to get something and to go, ooh, I wonder where it could be. No, it's a step-by-step, boring guide that boringly tells you where you should go and what you should do in the most boring way possible. It's the most boring and basic way to implement a mechanic like this. I don't even have to think. The game is pretty much instructing me with no real input from me, because if I try and put my own spin on it, the entire scheme breaks. One reason why I like the schedule more than schemes, because it's a smart way of telling the player where Osana's going to be and making them work around it and try to figure out what they should do. Sure, it tells you exactly where she's going to be, but it's a much better system than the schemes. Do this, 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 and win. Where's the challenge in that? One way to fix this, in my opinion, is to keep the checklist, but don't tell me exactly where I need to go, so I actually have to think for myself. For example, in the Crushing Osana scheme, it said that I needed the PE skill, so before I even bought it, I knew that I could obtain the skill points from going to school, so I did that. I spent 2 in-game days ranking up in a pretty dull but serviceable manner because I thought that I couldn't buy the scheme unless I had the PE skill. Not only did I not need to earn the PE skill before buying it, but the scheme actually told me how to do it, and that there was a much easier way to get the skill that I needed.
Do you see how unfun this is? The schemes existing aren't the problem, it's the way that they're laid out. Not only are Panty Shots the easiest way to earn info points to buy the schemes, which is wrong by itself because, I don't know, they're schoolgirls, but the fact that it takes no thought to play. Not only do they boil down to being a set of instructions in the top right hand corner, but if I wanted to just follow a step-by-step guide which requires me to not think about how to beat the game, I could just look up a guide online.
What about the other ways of getting info points? Are they really cool and require sleuthing around? No, not really. Trying to find the bug places without me running around school waiting for the pop-up to appear. And the stealing phone method, I couldn't find any tutorial about it in the game. There might have been one, and I might have missed it, but I couldn't find one in the game or online. Salutations everyone, Future Allan back. I was looking at the tutorials again to see how they worked. I'm trying to find the part where it tells me how to earn info points. And it doesn't. The only way I can find a tutorial is here at the bottom of InfoChan Service tutorial, where it says that these are all things you can do to get info points, but it doesn't tell me how. And if you need proof that the main way to get it has and probably will always be Panty Shots, here, this first one where it's talking about spare clothing and how to get it if you murder someone and you got blood on you. If you look at the third paragraph, it says, use your smartphone to access my app, then open the drops menu. You can use that menu to obtain a clean uniform from me, in exchange from Panty Shots, of course. This tutorial might be old and whatever. It might need to be updated, sure, whatever. But then again, it does say here, Panty Shots, not info points, because that's what you need. You need info points. It clearly says Panty Shots there.
The schemes are the baby way to play the game. It's the easiest and the most boring. When playing this game on a call, my friends and I had no fun playing Yandere Simulator with the schemes, and I think that is probably the game's biggest flaw. The schemes are boring, and trying to figure out any other way to kill Osana is pretty much game over. Another problem is Raibaru. Raibaru is invincible, don't believe me. Here's the InfoChan thing That says, look where it says there, it says invincible. You can, however, buy a scheme to kill Osana, but that's not what I want to do. I want to figure it out on my own. I want to feel like I have a giant galaxy brain when I figure out how to kill Girl. But I can't kill Girl without buying scheme, and we all know what the easiest way to earn info points is.
I'd understand if Rybrew existed if she was part of a later rival, because at that point you would have had more time to play around with the game's mechanics and figure out what to do. But not for the first flipping rival. There's no interactable tutorial either, so I have no way to practice the game's mechanics. Do you know what does have a tutorial you can play? Hitman, the one from 2016, and the original one, back in the year 2000. How do you not think of including a playable tutorial? Allow me to detail exactly how I did the crushing Osana scheme. I found it on Monday, so I needed the PE skill, so I spent Monday and Tuesday ranking up that skill. I just so happened to listen in on one particular moment in which Osana was revealing her dark secret, except I didn't need to do that because when I bought the scheme told me I could just buy it from InfoChan. I don't need to explain why buying it isn't fun, but I'll do it anyway. Having to listen in on Osana and spot her is fun. It makes you feel all sleuthy and you're trying to sniff out everything you can know about her before you put your plan into place. This is where I'd assume the bugs would come in. Being able to bypass it by purchasing secrets isn't fun. I understand that she's supposed to be InfoChan or whatever, but if the entire game is running around and getting points to buy schemes that throw away any agency, what's the point of even playing? I might as well just watch a gameplay video of it. After that, it told me to go straight to the gym and pick up a bucket of weights and run it all around school, placing a note in Osana's locker about meeting her, have people notice me running around with a bucket even though it wasn't cleaning time, and when she was ready, I dropped the bucket onto her skull, keeping it open without anyone going, this funny girl was holding a bucket. A very similar bucket. The next build of Yandere Simulator is apparently going to include all 10 rivals, so I can probably assume it is too late to get a complete overhaul of the first rival and the schemes mechanic. And if Osana is supposedly the easiest boss, I dread to think what the 10th rival could possibly be like, if she would be even remotely fun, or a pushover from me buying a scheme. I've yet to talk about the character design in this game, and I can tell you, it is bad, because sometimes I can't even tell who's supposed to be who. For example, the delinquents. They all look the damn same! Not only are they all blonde, but the hairstyles are so similar I can't figure out which delinquent's who. I have to take a photo so I can remember, oh, this is this delinquent. Oh well, that doesn't matter. There's no point talking to anyone in this game, because they aren't helping me at all, because all I need to do is buy a scheme. The only time I need to know who's who is so I remember whose panties I've taken a photo of. Just a side note, because I completely forgot to talk about it at other points in the game, the social simulator part of Yandere Simulator, because how Alex describes the game is a Hitman game mixed with a Persona game. Well, the stealth and killing mechanics like a Hitman game, and the talking things of Persona. I haven't played Persona. I've played Hitman, so I can comment on that. I can't comment on how the social interactions are in Persona. But my god, does it feel awful in this game. For example, when I was playing it, this is like the type of interaction you get. When you talk to someone, you hit socialize, you get all these MacGuffins. And this is a lot. This is really overpowering. And when I first looked at it, until I realized that what you're supposed to do is supposed to click on one of them and say, yes, I really like this thing, or yes, I don't like this thing. And then you're greeted with this line of text, which sounds incredibly robotic and doesn't make sense sometimes. For example, when I spoke to this introverted guy or whatever, you know, introverts. For example, when I spoke to this introverted character, I would assume anyway, because he doesn't like socializing, I said to him, God, I really hate socializing. Do you agree? It's not like this is a bad feature. I do like the reputation system. The reputation mechanic is pretty good, and having to do tasks for people so then you can check in favors like distracting people. That's a good idea. I like that idea. But the way I get reputation in this game seems a bit off. I mean, it's not even a good way of getting reputation because you get 1 point every good conversation you have. I mean, if I went round to everyone in the game, I could probably rack up a decent reputation and then completely lose it when someone sees me crawling on the ground or whatever. It has the groundwork to be a somewhat decent mechanic in the game, I do feel like. It's, again, social simulator part, that would make sense in a high school setting. And try to build up a reputation and being nice to people so then you can check in favors to kill people. That sounds like a pretty decent idea. Something that you can one-up on the Hitman game because then it makes your life easier. But this is a very bland way of doing it. It just feels like I'm walking up to a person, farming 1 reputation point and running off to the other person. And then there's no point doing the tasks, in my opinion, because then you have the schemes. I don't need to do these tasks to build up reputation because I don't need to when I can just kill everyone. Finally, the last point of this review, and a point that people like to bring up when they talk about Yandere Simulator, the bugs. To be perfectly honest, I didn't come across that many bugs. The only one I found really obnoxious was this zooming bug, in which when you get close to the camera, you get blurred out of existence. For example, when I went to the counselor, I was completely blurred out in this little minigame section, which makes it look absolutely awful. One bug you can replicate pretty easily on your own is when you enable low detail threshold on the character animation models, in which the characters will just unload on screen. That isn't as bad as Senpai ceasing to exist. He is now just a blue ball and a luscious beard that I gave him. Overall, there wasn't a lot of bugs I came across, just a bit unpolished here and there.
Yandere Simulator isn't a terrible game. It's bad, for sure, but I think the biggest problem this game has is that it's so incredibly boring. In my opinion, one of the worst things a game can do is bore the person playing it, and unfortunately for Yandere Simulator, once I started actually getting to the point where I was going to kill Osana, that's when it started to get very boring for me and my friends watching me play. There are mechanics that could be fleshed out to be pretty decent, like I explained. The info point system and having to do certain tasks to buy schemes can be interesting. For example, I do like the idea of stealing phones. That does sound like an interesting game mechanic, and it makes sense at a high school, and that's probably how you can get the most information out of someone. So if you stole this phone of your rival, that's how you will end up knowing exactly everything you need to know about them, which is probably what you want, and that adds a whole layer of stealth and stuff for you to play around with, instead of going for a pretty grotesque option because they're high school students. Personally, I think the Panty Shots should be removed. They should be cut from the game entirely. Do I think they're going to be removed? Probably not. They will probably stay in the game, and that is something that I am not very comfortable with, and I don't think a lot of people are very comfortable with, and I think that alone is enough to give the game already has a pretty bad reputation. Taking this one thing out won't fix a lot of the game's problems, but it will be a good step forward, and that would be great for boosting the game's reputation at least a little bit to get people back in and playing the game.
Do I think Yandere Simulator is ever gonna come out? Honestly, yes. Will it be this year? Probably not. Will it be next year? Don't know. Anytime soon? We have no idea. But when it does come out, who knows? May I step out of retirement one last time to talk about the full game.